G'day ladies and gents, and welcome back to War Thunder. Following on from the sort of positivity from the J32B video, I'd like to share with you a little match that I had in the F100D, which to me exhibits quite well why 9.7 is a good battle rating without the Lightning F6, and of course demonstrating that there are still some great planes at this battle rating, despite the Lightning kinda sorta ruining it all. Regardless, we're going to have a look at this particular match. Now, the F100D in the French and Chinese trees, well, the F100A in the Chinese tree, that is, are at 9.7. And whilst I will never really understand why, we're going to just live with it and make the most of a bad situation. So, F100D in the French tech tree, 9.7, 4 AIM 9Bs, basically the same as the one in the US tech tree. And honestly, this provides a fairly compelling argument as to why the American F100D could potentially be at 9.7, although personally I would like to see a sort of bottom-up approach instead of a top-down approach when it comes to top-tier jets and matchmaking that way. I would much rather see those sort of those well-performing jets be moved up as to those poorly performing jets be moved down, and obviously decompression being applied to the entire matchmaker. So, with that out of the way, we're going to have a look at how I play the F100D in this sort of little matchmaker here at 9.7. So, being a fairly quick jet, I'm going to put my speed to good use, and I'm going to try and rush in. Now, this plane definitely does not have the acceleration of the Lightning F6, and it can turn a little bit better than or in fact a lot better in some circumstances than the Lancer. So, I can afford to be a little bit more aggressive. However, the F100 doesn't recover its speed quite as well. It seems to be a little bit fatter or a little bit more sluggish, if you will, than the Lancer and then the Lightning F6, and that's probably down to the lack of turn rate. However, you can still find yourself in a tussle with the Lightning F6, and if you don't play your plane properly, you can lose, simply because the Lightning dumps all of its speed if you do certain maneuvers or if you go with the afterburner off. Now, you can see that I've gained a little bit of altitude, and that's basically to get a little bit of separation away from what I thought was going to be a ground rushing enemy, but unfortunately I'm basically at their altitude. So, critical hit on the Super Mist there in a head-on there. He's going to turn around, Hunter's going to turn around, and lo and behold, I have half the enemy team on my 6. This is a very sort of bad situation. I don't want to end up in a situation like this. And you can see there is an AIM-9E already heading for my swiggity-swooty big booty. And I'm going to dodge that one. All you have to really do to dodge these sort of missiles is roll out of the way, and obviously with a little bit of pull, because the missiles don't quite roll so well. And you can really exploit that. There goes the little missile. If I hadn't have moved out of the way earlier, I probably would have been knocked flat by it. And that is definitely not a good thing. Now, another bad thing that I've done is I've ripped a flap. The Hunter FGA-9 can actually keep up with you at some points in a turn if you are carrying 30 minutes of fuel, which is, I believe, what I'm doing here, and if you aren't using your flaps. So, this is going to be a really interesting dogfight. The FGA-9 is a little bit lighter and a little bit more maneuverable, and you can see it's already starting to get within that sort of turning circle. I'm getting a bit worried here, and I lose an elevator. At this point, I was basically ready to bail out. I was not a happy chappy at all, and as you can see, I've put my flaps out, and it's basically thrown my plane off a little bit. This is going to be one hell of a tough dogfight, and it's one of those rare occasions where I don't really get many opportunities to fight 1v1. Now, I'm going to go up into the vertical because what I'll do now is I'll fall back onto my opponent, which will put me at an advantage. And you can see here that I've just managed to do that. Can I get my guns on target? No. So I have to try and re-engage. Now, what the Hunter should have done here is gone for the vertical because I cannot keep up with that. But here, he makes a little bit of an error, turns out and then turns back in. What you should be doing is you should be completely committing to a turn. You should not be chopping and changing halfway through, and now it is just a matter of me getting my guns on target. I'm going to follow him down a little bit, and I get a nice critical hit with a short and sweet burst. He's going to try and shake me off with a spiral dive, and as the Hunter gets to those higher speeds, like I said in my Hunter F1 video, you cannot pull out of those types of dives, and I managed to get myself the kill. Now, could that be because they had a friendly of mine nearby? There's a real potential for that. But regardless, now I am basically a hunter with 4 missiles and 20mm cannons. I can't really do any meaningful dogfighting, not against these subsonics, and I have to basically go in and out of clusters looking for easier targets. Now, I have 4 AIM-9Bs, which means that I have some liberty there, but I really should not be taking too many chances. There's that super miss there that I went head-on with earlier. Again, I go head-on and no dice. He fully commits, which is a little bit massively, foolish. And now I need to go and actually make some kills, because if I don't, our team is going to get clapped very, very quickly. Shenyang F5 looks like he's putting himself in a perfect spot for my missile, and he just manages to avoid it, which is very, very lucky. I don't think he saw it. So what I'm going to do, sneak in behind him, see if I can pick him off with either the guns or the missile, and I did manage to turn a little bit, but you can see I bled a fair bit of speed. Firing those guns away, my aim is really not that great, but I have no time to sort of waste because I've got a super miss there looking at my behind, and a cheeky little Vautour that has decided to pull in front of me. Now, Vautours at low speed don't really go turny-turny, so I send a missile down his way and get a pretty easy kill. That brings my kill count to 2. Hopefully I can snag myself a couple more, and I'm looking specifically at this G91, but he decides he wants to turn out of the way. And because there's a massive cluster going on, I can sort of get away with turning and being a little bit more reckless than I otherwise normally would. You can see that MiG-15 going up there nice and vertical, and the Super Mister decides he wants to bail out. Unfortunately, I don't get the assist, but that's okay. Now, I believe there's an enemy Shenyang F5 that has ventured off towards the enemy airfield to rearm and repair. And then this MiG-15, and that's it. So we're going to have to pull our finger out of our ass to get some nice kills. So what I'm going to do, send a missile, and this is where the F-100 really sort of makes up from, or compared to the Lanson and the G91YS. Obviously, the Lanson has the same armament, but the F-100 has that sort of dogfighting capability, whereas the Lanson doesn't. The F-100 I would consider to be an all-rounder, and that's what makes it really nice. It's not particularly fast, it's not particularly good at energy retention, it is not particularly good at dogfighting. It is sort of averagely good at everything, and that's something that you will tend to find with all American vehicles that are sort of late war or post-Second World War. The M60s, the Abrams, the F-100, the Phantom, they all seem to be jack of all trades and ace of none. And this is a theme that will carry on probably throughout the rest of the tree. You can see the F5 here. I don't really trust him to play fair, and so I want to take him out nice and quick, because I don't know, I have a bad feeling about this one, that he might either J out or crash his plane, or find some creative way to deny everyone else the kill. So I'm not taking any chances. I don't know, maybe it's a little bit scummy, almost whacked myself into the tower there, but I end up taking him out, and I don't think I managed to get his pilot, but he ended up crashing into one of the buildings, it seems, and therefore no saved KD for him. But anyway, ladies and gents, this is basically the way you should see 9.7s in the game. They should be a stronger 9.3 or a stronger 9.0, whichever way you might want to look at it. They should not be something that overrides the entire matchmaker. They shouldn't be something grossly overpowered like the Lightning, and the F-100 actually really demonstrates that. It's just able to fit in the matchmaker quite well. Anyway, ladies and gents, thank you very much for watching. I appreciate you watching. Thank you very much. Take care, and I'll catch you next time.